Hey there, economic thrill seekers. Welcome back to Boss Economics World, where we rip apart the economic circus and expose the clowns running the show. I'm your host, the Boss Economist, here to serve up a piping hot plate of satire, data, and hard truths. Today, we're diving into the latest episode of the Trump tariff soap opera, airing live from the White House in 2025. The big question on everyone's mind: who's paying for Donald Trump's tariffs? Is it those sneaky foreign countries, as Trump claims, or is it, gasp, American businesses and consumers getting fleeced? Buckle up, folks, because this is gonna be a wild ride through the economic funhouse. Let's start with the headline act. General Motors, America's automotive darling, just dropped a bombshell on Tuesday, July 22, 2025. Trump's tariffs have slashed their profits by over $1 billion. Yep, you heard that right, $1 billion, gone, poof. And here's the kicker: GM didn't pass those costs on to consumers. Why? Because they're terrified of losing market share in an already cutthroat industry. So, instead of jacking up car prices, they just ate the loss. Bravo, GM, for taking one for the team, except the team here is Trump's ego, not the American people. But GM isn't alone in this tariff torture chamber. Look at the latest inflation data from the week of July 14 to 20, 2025. Car prices flat as a pancake. Meanwhile, prices for toys, appliances, and other imported goodies are shooting up faster than a SpaceX rocket. Why the difference? Because in those industries, companies are passing on the tariff costs to consumers. That's right, folks, your new toaster now costs 15% more, courtesy of Uncle Sam's trade war. So, next time you burn your toast, just remember, Trump's tariffs made it more expensive to replace. Now, let's zoom out to the macro picture. Import prices, excluding fuel, in June 2025 were up notably, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This blows a hole in Trump's claim that foreign countries are paying the tariffs. On Tuesday, July 22, 2025, after a meeting with the Philippine president, Trump took to social media to declare the Philippines will pay a 19% tariff. Oh, really, Don? Then why are import prices rising, not falling? If foreign countries were footing the bill, they'd be slashing their prices to stay competitive. But nope, the data says otherwise. As George Saravilos, global head of FX research at Deutsche Bank, put it in a scathing note on July 22, 2025, the top-down macro evidence seems clear: Americans are mostly paying for the tariffs. Ouch, that's gotta sting, Mr. President. So, if foreign countries aren't paying, who is? Let's break it down, layer by layer, like peeling an onion, except this onion is gonna make you cry for all the wrong reasons. First up, American companies are getting clobbered. GM's $1 billion profit hit is just the tip of the iceberg. Look at the Producer Price Index, PPI, data for 2025. The rate of increase in margins for wholesalers and retailers has slowed sharply in recent months, meaning businesses are absorbing tariff costs rather than passing them on. Why? Because they're scared of spooking consumers, who are already stretched thin by inflation. The Consumer Price Index, CPI, for 2025 has been relatively tame, but as Wells Fargo economists Sarah House and Nicole Servin noted last week, July 14 to 20, 2025, with little relief on import prices, domestic firms are stomaching the cost of higher tariffs and starting to pass it on to consumers. Translation: businesses can't keep eating these costs forever, so get ready for the pain to trickle down. And here's where it gets personal, folks. Those rising import prices, they're hitting your wallet. Take toys, for example. The Toy Association reported in June 2025 that the average price of imported toys in the U.S. jumped 12% year over year, thanks to tariffs on Chinese goods. Appliances? Up 9%, per the National Association of Home Builders. And don't even get me started on clothing. Nike just announced surgical price hikes to offset a projected $1 billion in tariff costs. So, next time you're shopping for sneakers, just remember, you're not just paying for the swoosh, you're paying for Trump's trade war, too. But wait, there's more. The tariff mess is also hammering the US dollar. Deutsche Bank Saravilos pointed out on July 22, 2025, that the pressure on US firms to bear tariff costs is a headwind for the greenback, which is already off to its worst start to a year since the 1970s. Why does this matter? A weaker dollar makes imports even more expensive, fueling inflation and making it harder for American consumers to afford everyday goods. It's a vicious cycle, folks, and Trump's tariffs are the grease on the wheels. Now, let's give credit where credit is due. Some foreign companies are trying to soften the blow. Take Japan, for example. Export prices from Japan have contracted for 3 straight months, and Japanese carmakers cut prices to the US in June 2025 by a record amount, according to data going back to 2016. Sounds like they're paying part of the tariff bill, right? Well, not so fast. Wells Fargo points out that the sliding US dollar has incentivized foreign suppliers to raise their invoice prices to compensate. So, while Japan might be eating some of the cost, many other countries are saying, thanks, but no thanks, and passing the buck right back to American businesses and consumers. Here's where the plot thickens. American companies aren't just going to roll over and take this tariff beating forever. Some are already fighting back. Take 3M, for example. Last week, July 14 to 20, 2025, they raised their earnings outlook, saying they're shifting production and tweaking pricing to mitigate tariff impacts. Nike, as we mentioned, is planning those surgical price hikes. And GM? Well, don't be surprised if they start passing on costs, too, once the competition heats up. Citigroup's chief U.S. economist, Andrew Hollenhorst, nailed it in a note on July 22, 2025, if consumers and foreign firms are not bearing tariff costs, domestic firms are. That is something that eventually should be reflected in corporate earnings announcements. In other words, companies are done playing the martyr. They're going to protect their profits, even if it means sticking it to consumers. And who can blame them? In the cutthroat world of capitalism, it's survival of the fittest, not survival of the most patriotic. Now, let's step back and look at the bigger picture. Trump's tariffs are raking in cash for the U.S. Treasury. Customs duties are up significantly in 2025, according to the Congressional Budget Office. But here's the rub, that money is coming from American pockets, not foreign ones. So, while Trump can brag about boosting revenues, he's essentially taxing his own people to do it. Genius political move, maybe. After all, it's easier to blame China or the Philippines than to admit you're fleecing your own voters. But economically, it's a disaster waiting to happen. And let's not forget the ripple effects. Tariffs are fueling inflation, weakening the dollar, and squeezing corporate profits. The Federal Reserve, already grappling with inflation above its 2% target, 3.5% in June 2025, per the Bureau of Labor Statistics, might have to raise interest rates even higher, risking a recession. Meanwhile, the trade deficit, the very thing Trump claims to be fixing, hasn't budged. The U.S. trade deficit with China was $200 billion in 2024, and early 2025 data suggests it's on track to stay flat, per the U.S. Census Bureau. So much for winning the trade war, huh? So, who's paying for Trump's tariffs? The data is crystal clear, it's American businesses and consumers, not foreign countries. GM's $1 billion profit hit, rising toy and appliance prices, a weakening dollar, it all adds up to a big, fat tariff bill landing on America's doorstep. And as companies like Nike and 3M start passing on costs, that bill is only going to get bigger. Here's the kicker, folks, this isn't just about economics, it's about politics. Trump's tariffs are a masterclass in distraction, blame foreigners, rake in revenue, and let the little guy foot the bill. But as the economic fallout mounts, the question is, how long will Americans put up with it? Will they keep cheering for Trump's America First circus, or will they finally see through the smoke and mirrors? That's all for today, economic warriors. What do you think, genius or disaster? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more economic takedowns. Until next time, this is the Boss Economist, signing off with a smirk and a spreadsheet. See ya.